Hello and welcome to this short episode of The Unconventional Ufologist. I've actually took time out of doing my Kelly Hopkinsville documentary for this because I did feel that it was important to do. Yesterday, the 25th of June 2021, in an unprecedented act of transparency from the Pentagon, the long-awaited unclassified first report on unidentified flying objects, or should I now be saying UAPs, damn it, it was actually released, all thanks to the Intelligence Authorization Act for the 2021 fiscal year that was neatly tucked into the $2.3 trillion omnibus and coronavirus relief package that was passed by US Congress in December 2020. It stipulated that it required the US Department of Defense and the Office of National Intelligence to compile what the government knows about UFOs, UAPs, that are being reported of American airspace, and then deliver this report to Congress within 6 months. And they did what was required. And though it's only a preliminary report and weighing in at only 9 pages, it represents the most direct and substantive US government account of what officials are now calling unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, there you go, ever made public. This preliminary assessment by the Pentagon's task force is based on a review of 144 UAP reports involving observations that have been made by military pilots between 2004 and 2021. It appears that they've concentrated on sightings mostly seen in the last 2 years. Out of the 144 reports, the task force could only determine an explanation for one of them, which turned out to be a deflated balloon. The rest remains unexplained. Thankfully, other explanations were not wheeled out like low-flying jumbo jets wearing glasses. I'm obviously joking, but the Air Force and all the associated types over the years have been ridiculous in their explanations. Swamp gas, we will never forget you. In 11 of the reports, pilots reported dangerous near misses with these UAPs, and in 18 of the sightings it was witnessed that these objects displayed unusual and unconventional flight characteristics or patterns of movement which demonstrated advanced, unknown technological capabilities. Other examples were being able to move at considerable speeds with no obvious signs of propulsion, abrupt manoeuvring abilities, objects remaining stationary in winds or even moving against the wind, and in a small number of reported cases, and I quote, "In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency (RF) energy associated with UAP sightings." While the assessment says that available reporting on UAPs is largely inconclusive, it nonetheless does conclude that there is currently no evidence that any of the objects are related to a secret US weapons program or were developed by foreign adversaries. The clustering of sightings near US military bases may just be the result of several kinds of collection bias. In other words, the reports of objects seen to cluster around military operation areas, MOAs, but it is recognised that this may simply be because that's where defence personnel are spending much of their time. Most of the UAP probably were physical objects, since most were detected in multiple ways, including via radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon seekers and visual observation. In addition, there are probably multiple types of UAP. Objects exhibiting unusual flight characteristics like the ones which appear to demonstrate advanced technological capabilities could also be the result of sensor errors, spoofing or observer misperception and require additional rigorous analysis. In other words, the assessment recognised that observers' reports are not hard data, as they may seem to think. For example, just look back on Luis Elizondo's 5 observables, or more accurately 5 assumables. 1. Anti-gravity lift. 2. Sudden and instantaneous acceleration. 3. Hypersonic velocities without signatures. 4. Low observability or cloaking. And 5. Transmedium travel. Anyone familiar with the history of the UFO controversy understands that problem. We have had reliable witnesses testifying to truly amazing things for more than 70 years, and yet no such report has ever led to the discovery of any extraordinary flying object. Some people try to convince us that certain observers, like trained military pilots, are so extraordinarily credible that their accounts and estimations simply must be believed. Perhaps these people are unaware that the late Dr. J. Allen Hynek, the scientific consultant to the US Air Force Project Blue Book, wrote, "Surprisingly, commercial and military pilots appear to make relatively poor witnesses." And for this, just look at his book, The Hynek UFO Report from 1977, page 271. Regarding whether or not these objects represent a threat, the report says that UAP clearly pose a risk to flight safety in the increasingly crowded skies and may pose a challenge to national security, particularly if the UAP were developed by foreign adversaries and indicate a potential adversary had developed either a breakthrough or disruptive technology. The US needs to collect and analyse more information, consolidate reporting, develop a more efficient way of screening and processing the reports. So as you can see from that, the Pentagon has stressed the need to better observe and collect data about UAPs to better understand their nature and to formalise the study of UAPs, UFOs. As predicted by myself and others, the report makes no mention of extraterrestrial involvement, but hopefully that doesn't mean the task force has ruled that possibility out. Which brings us to the 5 possible explanations for the UFOs or UAPs that the report does put forward. Whilst the report doesn't offer much in the way of explanation for the objects, it offers 5 categories of possible explanations. 1. Airborne clutter, including birds, balloons, drones or airborne debris. 2. Natural atmospheric phenomena, including ice crystals, moisture and thermal fluctuations that may register on some infrared and radar systems. 3. US developed technology, i.e. classified technology developed by the US or its industry partners. 4. Technology developed by foreign adversaries, i.e. on Earth, like Russia, China or other government or non-government entities. And 5. Other. This is a catch-all for encounters where there isn't enough information to determine categorisation, which is where I believe this could include the possibility of UAPs or UFOs being of extraterrestrial origin. In a nutshell, we can at least say this. The available reporting is largely inconclusive. Explaining UFOs will require analytic, collection and resource investment, i.e. we need funds. When did a government agency ever not require more funds? And that was a key conclusion, and here is their own words taken from the section titled Increase Investment and Research and Development. The UAPTF, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, has indicated that additional funding for research and development could further the future study of the topics laid out in this report. Such investment should be guided by UAP collection strategy, UAP R&D, technical roadmap and a UAP programme plan. And so, yet another government agency is born. More than likely those who are now working on the task force are too young to recall the United States Air Force's persistent publicity problems in the 1950s and 60s with good old Project Blue Book, for which the much and deservedly maligned Condon report was supposed to end the controversy, but as we all know, it didn't. My worry here is that we may end up with a Project Blue Book too, and as we often learn from history and the fact that it repeats itself, that we will probably also end up with the Condon Committee Report Part 2, and that will have to raise its ugly head to get themselves out of what could be a mess. So what can be done? I think the way forward would be that the new members of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force is to, in future, only pick damn good cases, similar to the ones we've recently seen with photographs and video evidence. Don't just speak to those in the know at the Pentagon, speak to experts in their various fields, optical scattering, optical glare, infrared imaging, etc. And then present all your findings to the public with every bit of documentation, said photo and video evidence, and the analysis of the presented documentation. Only this way will you meet the criteria that many people deem necessary to present proof and educated empirical analysis. This will gain confidence from both the public and the scientific community. Before I will believe any task force analysis saying that some report is unexplainable, I want to be assured that the task force understands the factors involved in analysing such cases, at least as well as the best civilian investigators do. At the moment I am willing to wait to hear more, especially if the Pentagon departments work in a way I've discussed just now. The conspiracies within me worries, again, as I've mentioned previously, that perhaps after wasting $1.6 trillion on the disastrous F-35, spending over $2.26 trillion on the war in Afghanistan, yes, that's the T word again, and now the military are facing a flat budget for 2021 of $715 billion. The Pentagon simply wants a flashy reason to demand yet more money, and what better way than playing on the paranoia of an unnamed and unknown aerial threat. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. One small click for you is one giant leap for me and the channel. Well, that's been it. That's me, Steve, for the Unconventional Ufologist. Catch you again soon.